This video is designed for those organisations that have multiple surveys or language templates that they wish to combine to get an overall picture to how their organisation is doing. In this example, we have two sites, the Sheffield site and the Buxton site, but we want to get an overall picture for how this organisation is doing across all the sites combined. To be able to do this, we first of all have to go back to the very start of the plan phase of our survey. When planning our survey, we need to ensure that any demographics that we choose are consistent for each of the surveys that we wish to merge. So, for example, in this instance, we clicked on the Buxton site. We can see here that our demographics are director, manager, supervisor, worker, admin support, and our departments are labelled 1 to 10 as our sites. To be able to merge this with the Sheffield, we need to ensure that these are consistent with the Sheffield site survey. So, if we go to the Sheffield site survey, we click on the build, and we scroll down, we can see here that we have exactly the same demographics, although it's interviewing a specific site. Now what we want to be able to do is merge these two sites to be able to get an overall picture for how our company's doing. To be able to do this, we need to build a new survey. This survey will be used for the merging of these two data files. We build a new survey which we can call Combined Organisation Survey, and we build this exactly the same as we have before. So in this instance though, we might say we've got 1,000 people overall as opposed to 500 each of the sites. We do need to enter an expected completion date, but we don't really need to worry about this, as this survey is not going to be sent out to anyone. It's just a way of combining our data for analysis purposes. So we need to make sure that this combined survey has the demographics that are in both the Sheffield site and the Buxton site. If, for example, however, you've used different labels, for example, you haven't used the department demographic for one of the sites, you'd have to remove this from both of the data files, which I'll show you shortly when we go to the editing of the data files. So we need to build this survey bearing in mind that we have the demographics that are consistent across both the Sheffield and Buxton site. What we might like to do is be able to compare the two different sites and filter them on this overall combined survey. So what I'm going to do is drop the site demographic and change this to business area. I'm now going to change this to two options, and we're going to rename this as Sheffield site for number 1 and the Buxton site for number 2. What is key at this element though is that I've chosen to drop that demographic. If you don't have that ability, you want to ignore that step and just keep your demographics consistent. However, you'll see why I've done that when I upload the data. As well as the demographics, any open questions that you've used will also need to be consistent. Once built, you'll see you've got a new survey in your account called the Combined Organisation Survey. The next step is to get the data from each of these sites into here. So the next step is to get the data from the Buxton and the Sheffield sites. So the first thing we do is go to the Buxton site, we click the Collect button, we click the Responses, and we download this as an Excel file. It will automatically download. Now, before we upload this into the system, we need to open this data file. And the reason we need to open this is that I've made that change on the demographics, in which I've changed the site to either Sheffield or Buxton. But I need to make that edit in this file. So, what I need to do is go over to the site column, and I'm going to change all of these to 2, as 2 reflects the Buxton part of the business. I will then change all the responses in this to a 2. I will then save this as the edited version of the file. You then need to do the exact same process for the Sheffield site. downloading and then editing the site column to a 1 to reflect that this data has come from the Sheffield part of the organisation. Once you've downloaded the data and made those edits, if you need to, again, you only need to make those edits if you've changed your demographics. For those that you have inconsistent demographics, and by this I mean that you might have asked gender or whether or not someone is a contractor on, say, the Sheffield site, not the Buxton site, you would need to delete those columns from the Excel file before uploading it into the system. If at any point you have any errors in terms of you've missed off a column or need to delete a column, the system will tell you what the error is. For example, is if I go into the Combined Organisation Survey, the Collect side, into the Responses tab and try to upload a file that hasn't got the correct number of columns, I will get the following error message. So in this instance, the system is telling me the file does not contain the required header contractor because I have deleted out the contractor column. The next step is to find those Excel files from the Sheffield site and the Buxton site, the edited versions, and upload those into your combined survey. As you can now see, I have 693 results, which is the combined total of both our surveys. If I now click on the organisational survey, I click the Analyse tab, I go to the report. The report is now reflective of the organisation as a whole, including all 693 responses as opposed to the individual sites. If I then went to the tables and charts area, for example, I then looked at factor 1 and split this by the sites, I'm able to see the responses from the different sites. So in this instance, the results are exactly the same, as this is just made up data. Now, if it's the case that you've got, say, more than 10 surveys or multiple language templates, you perhaps can't get this level of granularity, but you will still have the overall picture as to how your organisation is doing of that snapshot of the safety climate across your organisation. If you require additional assistance with multiple surveys or have a very complex organisation, contact our support team and they'll be able to put you in contact with our expert consultants who can assist you in building the survey.